Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Triplet Double podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Hernandez, and I'm excited to have another guest this week, a very special triplet father out of Dallas, Texas. Let's give it up for Todd Balkin.
Hey mate, how are ya? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. I really appreciate having you here, and I know this is going to be a really great discussion, and just excited to get with another triplet dad and kind of hear a little bit about your journey. And I'm excited more so because the other past triplet dads I had, everyone's been pretty much younger than my triplets. So I don't like, you know what I mean? They're still in like that early stage.
Yeah,
I haven't, and I've experienced that early stage. I haven't
yeah,
experienced the next steps with that because I do have older kids who are close in age with the triplets, but I'm always curious to see people's like stories and their experiences with their triplets as they are past that toddler stage.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I know your triplets are about roughly, we said 4 or 5.
Yeah, there'll be four in about a month. So
Okay.
yeah, we're definitely through the thick of it, as my wife and
Yeah.
I like to say. So yeah, no, we're definitely on a little bit more of the funner side, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, and you're breaking out of the oh my gosh, I forgot where I was at. You're breaking out of the toddler phase. Now
Correct. Yeah,
they're
correct.
kids.
They're actual like little humans now, to be honest.
Yes.
They each have their opinions for good or for worse. And then,
Hilarious.
playing with each other, they've been swimming all summer down here in Dallas because it's super hot and just
Right.
seeing them all swim together and hang out and yeah, definitely at the toddler stage and now they can sit and eat, working on the knives and forks right now. So we'll see
Nice.
how that goes.
That's awesome. So, Todd, go ahead and talk to me a little bit about the triplet pregnancy and kind of from the beginning when you guys found out and, with you and your wife, how all this came to be.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think that obviously triplets and even multiples is sort of a thing that's not common, but I feel like once you sort of seek it out, it's a little more common than people think. But my wife and
Hmm.
I's situation, Taylor, we were trying for about a year naturally, and then kudos to her, she was like, "Hey, why don't we both just go get checked out and see, if there's anything that maybe you can help or we need to do something." And I'm glad she did. At the
Right.
time, we found out some stuff that on her side, and then even my side, there was some stuff to work on. So I'm glad that we did, and essentially, like we probably needed the help through in vitro. So that's when we sort
Hmm.
of, it's sort of a shock to. Again, we both classified ourselves as healthy and did the right things, but sometimes you just need to get it checked and figure out a different path that what ends up being your own path.
Yes. No, that's a very good point. And I've spoken with others who are really kind of they're they're pretty like not like shocked, but they're really concerned about that because it's happening to more people than we think. People just aren't always very vocal about it. You know what I mean? And I think this platform has given us an opportunity to be vocal and talk about those things. But it's good that you're here sharing this because I don't think a lot of people are always comfortable talking about those things. And to hear this coming from like you, I think it helps people listening who may be going through the same thing. Help more comfort and more community, and know that it's not just like this is not just me. Like you know what I mean? There's other,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think I've sort of taken that and sort of ran with it too. To be honest, like
yes,
you know, um, a lot of people that I work with who are friends, a lot of people are going through some type of in vitro work or they need help, right?
hmm,
And again, when you think of triplets, most people just think of IVF, right? That's the first thing that comes
yes,
to everyone's mind. So it's sort
yes,
of an easy segue then to teach you about IUI and then tell them about my story about, hey, listen, like we thought we were healthy and which we are healthy, but we just needed help. And
right,
I tell people it's like, hey, whether you're in our boat or whether you do need help, it's your own story, it's your own journey. You can
hmm,
do what you want, but I think it's definitely worth anyone getting checked out. It's an hour on each side of each person, and then you can sort of
hmm,
have a roadmap. And if everything's fine, great, so be it. If not, then you need help, like Taylor and I did. It's something that you can move towards and actually have a different roadmap. Because if we kept doing what we were doing for the 2 years, it was almost impossible.
yes.
So
Okay, yeah, no, that's good to know. Thank you for sharing that. And so you guys got checked out. You went through the IUI process.
yeah.
From starting that process to getting the pregnancy, how long was that? Like, what was the gap between there?
Yeah, it's I know when we first talked, I was sort of trying to recall it all, to be honest. But
Uh-huh.
once we decided, hey, like we're gonna need some in vitro help and went down the IUI route, we there was a fertility place in Dallas that a few other people we know have gone to, so we went there and checked it out. And yeah, when they told us, hey, this is sort of what it looks like, this is what the protocol is, we sort of took a breath. We talked about it for a couple of weeks with close friends and families, and then when we decided to go ahead with it, again, from people who haven't been through it or have been through it, the guy's not really involved on the front end work. There, there's still like some medication shots for the wife. So my wife Taylor was a champ and did all of that. And then, when
Yes.
it came to the actual procedure, so to speak, it was, you sort of just rolling the dice still. Like you don't,
Mm-hmm.
IVF, I feel like I haven't been through it, but IVF, I feel like is a little more strategic and a little more planned out, where IUI is still a little more rolling the dice. So we
Mm-hmm.
were sort of like, hey, this is our, the medicine obviously helped create more follicles and bigger follicles, so that's obviously helps. And then with the help of the insertion, it was a greater chance, right? So that's where we sort of got to, and we landed on that. So that was the first time we did that. The first try was unsuccessful, which is pretty atypical from what we understand from the doctors and nurses. And then we couldn't do it the next month for certain reasons. And then the third month into it, I remember going in and the medicine was up just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, "Hey, there's a chance you have multiples with this go around." And
With
we're
a
like,
higher, because they did
"Yeah,
a higher dose. Is that what my
yeah." So
understanding? Okay.
correct, a little bit higher dosage, and they were like,
Okay.
"Hey, this is up to you." And we had four larger follicles, which that's the ones where they get a little worried, I guess is the word that
Yes.
they said. Um, and then at that point, Taylor and I have been trying now for about probably a year and a half to get pregnant, and we sort of had the conversation: is like, do we want to do this? Do we not? What's the
Mm-hmm.
outcome? What's not? And to be fair, she was like, "Hey, I'm not sure we should go through with
Yeah.
it." And then everyone else but her was like, "Hey, like this is sort of your best chance. This is what you guys
Yeah.
are waiting for." And again, my whole thing was when you think of multiples, you think of twins, right? So
Right.
when we were going through it, was like, okay, if we can get twins and be two and done and move on. And again, right, the rate of even a singleton through IUI is low, and then twins and then
Mm-hmm.
triplets. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so we did it. We found out we were pregnant a little bit after, and then we went in to get blood tests. And at that point, they said, hey, the numbers are high. And I was like, perfect. We're gonna have twins. Great. Like this
Yeah.
is gonna be
Right.
great. This is gonna be great. So I think that was maybe like week 6 of the pregnancy, roughly, and then week 8 was
Okay.
the first ultrasound. So a couple weeks later, we roll into the doctor's office, and my wife did a little bit of research on what to look for on the screen. I admittedly did not.
Oh wow.
So we're sitting there, and she's sort of looking at the screen, and she's sort of like laughing, crying ish sort of thing. And I was like, oh God, what is something wrong? And then the technician was like, I'm gonna let you decide. And I was like, well, that's a weird answer. And I was like, and
Oh
I said,
wow.
she's like, do you know what you're looking at? I said, no, I don't. She goes, oh, you got triplets. And I was like, oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, as you can imagine, as you know, right, it's a shock to
Yes.
the system, right? Even to this day,
Mm-hmm.
thinking back on it, I can still remember the feeling that I had. But yeah, that's what sort of the road was like up until when we found out.
And your wife did her homework in advance, and she was able to. Did she say? Did she tell you like either during the ultrasound or after? Like, oh yeah, I knew it was triplets before she said, or where was she at?
She just knew there was more than one.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
think she was thinking twins, if we're being super honest,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Hmm.
she just realized there was more than one at one point, and I was like, oh boy.
Wow.
So
Wow. Yeah. Those ultra. That's funny. Your ultrasound tech went about that route because I've shared this before. They really have like a good poker face
yes,
as far as like what they're looking at when they're doing the ultrasound for obvious reasons because you don't know what you're always getting into with an ultrasound,
yeah.
unfortunately. So they have to have a really solid poker face and not show any emotion. And I think that's funny that she put kind of gave a guessing game a little bit to
Yeah,
you
it
guys.
was it was sort of nice to take the edge off, to be honest, looking
Yes,
back on it.
yeah,
But yeah, it was still a shock nonetheless.
right, yeah.
So
But that's we thought ours were twins. That's what the tech had saw, and
yeah,
then couple minutes later, she found the third one, and you know, again, like how you were like, oh, it's going to be twins, great. Like, my wife had said it's going to be twins.
Yeah.
Like she had thought already with her symptoms, it's going to be twins, and so I was like, okay, twins. Like, what I mean, we'll be at 4. We're like good. And then when they said triplets, I was like, oh, like yeah, that's where the whole processing because I didn't even
Yes.
know where to begin. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We're in the same boat. We got out of the doctor's office and we both just sat in the car and was like, now what do
Yeah.
we do? So called both our parents, and I'm originally from Australia, and I called my parents. I didn't even really care or want to know what time it was, and they answered and we
Hmm.
talked, and I was like, oh boy. They were like, oh my gosh, yep, you definitely got multiple. So yeah, I went mute for a little while to say
Yeah.
the least, and
Relatable.
yeah, just trying to process it all and deal with. My first and foremost was the health of my wife, and obviously the kids, and then again, it's pretty easy not to. Well, it's pretty hard not to think about the financial side of it too. So
Of course.
that was all part of it, and just trying to process it in my own way.
So when you guys, so yeah, looking back at that, like I'm thinking here when you guys had, I mean, going the mute aspect, totally understandable. Like that's
Yeah,
just a lot. It took me like a week to process that. I
yeah,
think that's more than reasonable because you're trying to figure all that out. Um, did they talk to you right away about high risk of the pregnancy?
yeah.
What was
They
that
did.
conversation like?
Yeah, that was sort of a weird conversation. I listened to one of your episodes, and they sort of talked about reduction.
Mm-hmm.
For us, is they once we found out, then we pulled it straight into the doctor's office, and they said, "Hey, like off the bat, you're high risk. There's a high likelihood that you don't give birth to three. It's
Yeah.
just the way it is." And
The stats. Yep.
yeah, the stats tell you that that happens, and all of a sudden you go from being trying for over a year and a half to find out we're pregnant to multiple is great, and then all of a sudden 5 minutes later it's like, oh boy, now it's like this whole risk situation, and it's sort of like an up and down emotion. Obviously I'm glad they talked to us about it, but yeah,
Right.
they ran through the numbers, and we probably both weren't in the right headspace to listen and actually take it in.
Yes.
But yeah, all I really heard was high risk. Probably don't leave with three out of the hospital. That's basically what I took away from the
Wow.
conversations.
And this is after the first that ultrasound, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Like they
Yeah.
they
That's
they
pretty
told us
quick.
straight away, which I think is a good thing. I think like I'm glad we had that conversation like in week 8 instead of week 15, right?
Yes.
So from then they set up a plan where we were going to be at the OB 1 week and then the specialist every other week. So it was week on, week off until
Okay.
we got to my wife got to 33 weeks.
33 weeks. Wow. That's
Yeah,
very impressive. That's
yeah,
big. We know what the stats say and we know other people's journeys don't always make it to 33 weeks. 34 in the States is, I think, I want to say it's globally, but I know for the States, I think they don't let you go past 34. Like that's
correct.
the
Yeah,
cutoff point. Yeah.
yeah, that was it. That like they said you could probably got 34, but one of our
Yeah.
little guys was maybe getting growth restricted, so they were like, "Hey, we had no complications, we had no bed rests, we were at dinner the night before the C-section, so we're like, hey, like let's not
Wow.
push our luck, like let's if we can go and get it out and be done with it, let's do that." So yeah, that Friday after dinner we did it. So but yeah, it's sort of a daunting conversation to have, and then the other conversation is like, do you want to purposely reduct because of the health, and it's just
Hmm.
that whole thing too. So yeah, we were based on the mindset of like, hey, this is what God gave us, and this is what we're going to do, and we're just
Hmm.
going to take it. Literally is week by week.
Yep.
Every OB, and it's like holding your breath. Is something wrong? Is something not wrong? And then the specialist is like,
Hmm.
hey, and the specialist is like, hey, listen, like it's getting to the point where I just don't want to say anything, just because everything's going so smooth. Again,
That's
we know
great.
that we know that some
Yeah.
people's journeys aren't that easy, so we are
Right.
very grateful and understand that. So yeah, definitely grateful for that.
Yes, and I think, I don't know what you knew about multiples before, but I know just in general, like I don't know. Like you think it's fascinating to meet twins and triplets in real life, and I've never really met any triplets. I've met twins, of course, but
Hmm.
it's fascinating to meet like people who are multiples, but you don't know much more than just like the humor side of things, like the pop culture things. Like you don't really know
Yeah,
too much unless you have a direct family
correct.
connection. and that's the truth of it. And so I think when, for, I don't know about you, but like for me, I never even realized the high risk of it. Never realized
Yeah,
that at all. Like I had no clue. And I think
yeah.
maybe that's ignorance, but it was just, yeah.
I was the same, and we were like, again, like now looking back on it, like it's pretty easy to understand that it's high risk. But at the time, we were
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, like it'll be fine. Like
Yeah.
there's twins born all the time, and you see,
Right.
oh, okay, well, sort of what's one more. But yeah, I think a little naiveness, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So we went through that journey, and week on, week off, every appointment, sort of holding your breath, and kept going. And we didn't, for us, we didn't want to find the gender out until day of. Um,
Cool.
yeah, which was a little different. So we thought we would have one boy just from the basis of the sum with the ultrasounds with how many we had, but we didn't really know, and so that was always good to sort of like keep the lightheartedness of it throughout the whole
Right.
time of like, okay, what if
Yeah.
we have three girls, two boys, one girl, two girls, one boy, and all this. So that
Exciting.
was sort of like a little bit of like the lightheartedness of the whole journey.
And what was the outcome?
Yeah, so they went boy girl boy, so two
Wow.
boys and a girl. Yeah, so
No identical. They were
yeah,
all okay.
all
Wow.
fraternal. Yep. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's awesome. So now, that's great to hear about like how this started, and then I'm just, it's awesome that it went smooth. Like that's great. You know what I mean? Like because we know you can hit all different kinds of road bumps. So now, when you got the triplets home and everything, how long were they in the NICU actually? Like let's go into that. How long was the NICU stay?
yeah. So yeah, as I'm sure you remember, the actual day of is chaotic, and
Yes.
one of the NCOs took some pictures and videos, and looking back on it, it felt like a Grey's Anatomy scene when we were in there. But so they initially said 4 weeks is what you can expect, and
Right.
we were lucky we probably lived about 10 minutes from the hospital, which was nice, and
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, which was super nice. So then we yeah, first day, and then they were looking after my wife, and once my wife was stable, she went into the room, and I quickly went down and saw it, and they're in the NICU. The boys were in the NICU for 2.5 weeks, and then Sloan, sis, we call her, she was in there for like another week. Um,
Okay.
again, the NICU space obviously it can be good, and sometimes it's some trying times in there. We were very fortunate that we were classified as feeders and growers,
Hmm.
which again, if you're in that situation that we were, I think it was very actually beneficial. It gave my wife some time to recover, and I learned a lot
Yes.
from the nurses, and they taught me a lot of things. And having the 24-hour access and learn to feed and bathe them and change
Right.
them, I didn't know anything about that. So again, hindsight was a good thing. Again, there's not always good cases in there, as we saw and got to meet some other parents. But
Hmm.
being de facto learning from the nurses and spending time with them and watching how they do it and how much they do care. And, I'm just forever grateful for them. I think they're the most underpaid people in the world, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the NICU. And then we took the boys home first, and we had them home. And we're like, okay, like we got a grasp on this. Like, I was like, hey, Taylor, there's
You
one
got
more.
twins, right? You got
Yeah.
twins, and you're like, oh, okay, you can balance this. That's how we felt. Because the same thing. We had two home first, and then third
Yeah.
one came, and then like you're about to say, like that's where you're like, oh my god, this is a whole new dynamic.
Yeah, it's just like, oh boy. And then I was fortunate, my mother-in-law lived with us for a little while to help us out, and we
Great.
literally setting schedules, and you just sort of figure it out, right? Like it's easy to say now, I guess, being through it, but my wife was very on top of it, and she joined a Facebook group similar to the one we're in, and people were talking about people who had them right before or just after, and she got some tips and learned some things from them and implemented schedules and our own schedules of like always two to three kids and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm definitely, I tell everyone it was probably the most trying time in our lives by far. Like there's no sugarcoating it.
Hmm.
We don't get the bath time with one and enjoy it, and it's like literally you're trying to almost get it done as quick as you can because you got other stuff to worry
Yeah.
about, or one kid's sick, or there's always something going on. And that's the thing, I
Yes.
think the only thing you miss, because we only have triplets and we're done, and so it's like we don't
Hmm.
ever have the singleton time, so to speak, or we didn't have that
Hmm.
where it's like, oh, everyone enjoys bath time. It's like most of the time we're just trying to get in and out as quick as we could.
Yeah. No, that's very accurate. I think there's a more to speak on that for sure because I think you got three, and then as they get older and they're becoming babies and toddlers, and then there's only two of you. I mean, yes, you can pick up two at a time,
Yeah,
but like you said, you guys can't all each, hold and give
correct.
that one 100% of your attention right now, which is hard. Yeah. So really, that's awesome. So your kids beat the NICU average, which
Yeah,
for triplets, which is awesome,
yeah,
and you are spot on. They are very underpaid there,
yes,
or underappreciated as well. I would say because
yes,
I don't care who you are. You can have like 10 kids already. I think going home with three babies at once, like your first day after after you have a singleton, you're gonna be like, oh my god. At least that NICU stay not only gives you a second to breathe, but it also helps get the babies on schedules and
correct.
helps gets everyone like, you know what I mean, helps the parents get familiar with the babies again too, which is huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, no doubt. Yeah, we act like we had so much appreciation and tried to show them as much appreciation as we could. And yeah, no, forever grateful for them and the work they did with for them and for us. They taught me a lot before I took them
Yeah,
home, so I was very grateful.
that's awesome. Now talk to me about the triplets now. So they're about to be four.
Yeah, so yeah, about to be fall. We joke we're out of the doomsdays, which is good. Fully potty trained. Still at night, we in the last 2 or 3 months, they've been going to the bathroom at night by themselves, which is
Mm-hmm.
so we're getting there on that front. But honestly, now it's been good. The last year has been sort of nice to sort of take a breather, so to speak, and enjoy the
Right.
time. I'm not sure about your experience, but for us, it was literally like each day you're just sort of surviving. As bad as it sounds, it was just like, hey, I got to get through this, and
It's
plus
true. Yeah.
then you add work on top of it. It
Mm-hmm.
was just like, what can I do to make this get through and keep them alive and fed and not crying as much? But now it's been really good. All their personalities are showing. They're all completely different.
Yeah.
All completely different personalities. They all look different. And it's just been fun, diving into that and spending a little more one-on-one time with them, right? We try and do one-on-one dates. And my in-laws live about an hour and a half away from Dallas now, and they'll come in and take one of them for like four days ish, and then we'll go out
Okay.
there and spend a day, and then come back with all of them, and they sort of rotate them through, so they get a little bit of alone time with my grandparents,
Well, that's great.
and then we get twins for 4 days, which is nice. So
Yeah.
it's sort of a win-win.
Right.
And then also now too, like from like the dating standpoint about with you and your wife, it's like for 2 years you basically couldn't do anything because you couldn't really have help. No one can really just come in and be like, oh yeah, I'll come babysit. Like that's not really a
Mm-hmm.
thing with triplets. Last Friday, my mother-in-law was in town, and the kids are more manageable now, where it's like you
Mm-hmm.
can leave them with someone. They do listen, they do talk, they do eat, they do drink by themselves, and if they don't eat all their meal, it's not the end of the world. We're back when you first get them home, like I remember counting all the ounces and making sure they get
Yeah.
X amount. So that's been a big shift for us too, where it's like it's okay to take a breather now and really enjoy the time. And especially for us, I try and always remember myself as like we're not having any more kids, so we only get a 3-year-old 3 times once. We don't get a
Yes.
we're not having another 1-year-old birthday party. We're not having another 2-year-old birthday party. So really trying to stay present in that moment and really trying to enjoy it. Again, doesn't happen all the time, like any parents, whether it's 1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter. There's always trying times, but really trying to take that sort of approach into this stage of life too now, where we can enjoy it and we can go out to eat and we can go to pumpkin patches like we are going to go this weekend and stuff like that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been nice to be able to get out and do things now with them instead of before it was so schedule oriented and it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. Exactly. You're always like, it's like going anywhere is not as like a 5 minute ordeal to get ready. You know
No.
what I mean? It take like an hour like to get everyone,
Yeah.
especially when they're at the toddler phase, because they're crying. They got they're figuring things out what they want. You got to get the diaper bag, and especially if they're not potty trained, you got to get the diaper bag packed. Make sure you have everything.
No.
Get them all packed, and by the time you're done, you're like, you're out there. You're at the place for like 30 minutes, and you're like, all right, let's go.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now they got to get back for a nap. This has been great. Cool. Great. I'm
Exactly. You're
glad
like,
we
all
did
right,
it.
it's nap.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna suck
Be
today
chaos.
if
Yep.
we don't get this done.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely had those times. For sure. For sure.
That's funny. What are the triplets into right now?
So we very diverse, so to speak. So we have one boy who's a stereotypical jock. We actually gave him a mullet, which was great, but
Oh,
he's
cool.
He's more of the athletic one of the group. Loves
Okay.
to jump, swim, sports, all the things. Plays with our dog a lot. Loves to wrestle. And then Sis is more down the fairway. She's enough athletic and enough smart. We call her like she's a typical middle child, and she's big into arts, coloring princesses, playing doctor. And then Archie is our youngest one, and he's being classified a little bit more intelligent for his age than most. So
Okay.
he's a big loves to learn, listen, read.
Nice.
Like he loves to really soak it in, whether it's TV, whether it's out and about at like puppet shows or story time. He's really like intense into learning and understanding and that type of thing. So yeah, all very different mix, but yeah, big into the monster trucks, Hot Wheels for the boys, which
Yeah.
is very stereotypical, which is sort of fun for me, which is good. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then Sis is getting into dance. We've got dance this afternoon actually with her, and then the boys starting to get him into a little bit of soccer and stuff like that. So sort of more so in the backyard than organized sports just yet, but definitely next year we'll maybe plug them in somewhere.
Nice. And do they get any screen time at all?
Screen time, we haven't given them an iPad yet.
Yeah. No. Well, not iPad, but like
Yeah,
like in the living room
TV.
TV or anything.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do a little bit of TV. We did it
Yeah.
more so when we needed 30 minutes to cook dinner or do laundry
Yeah.
or do anything. And we are like, hey, Miss Rachel, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty good with it. Again, there's times where parenting's hard and sometimes you don't want to do it. And we feel like we do a
Hmm.
pretty good job. But yeah, to answer your question,
It's a good
yes,
balance. Yeah.
they do get some screen time, but it's very, appropriate all the time. It's not just like on a Sunday they're just sitting there for 4 or 5 hours. It's like, hey, you get like a little window or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nice. No, that's good. That's good. I think those are I like to learn about that because I think, everyone's gonna have different opinions on it.
agreed.
Um, yeah, but obviously screen time. I think it's proven less is better. But like
Yeah.
we let the kids do Sesame Street,
Yeah.
Bluey. Bluey's always been
Yeah.
something that's had it's calm. Bluey's nice and calm. It's
Correct.
just not like super
It's
fast
not
and
Coco
short
Melon where
attention
it's in
span.
your face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we never were Coco Melon. No, Miss
Yeah.
Rachel, Sesame Street, Bluey, and then they'll be able to watch a Pixar movie and stuff like that. But that's pretty
Correct.
much it. Yeah.
Yeah. We've actually gone back to the original Disney movies like Cinderella, Snow White, where it's like
Cool.
a less like animation and sort of a little more
Mm-hmm.
calm for them. And
Mm-hmm.
that sort of worked as well. So that's been nice too. Watching the old Lion King, Aladdin,
Yep.
Cinderella and stuff. It's a bit nostalgic, but they seem to like that stuff too. So, and again, we always find if we do flick it on like 30 minutes later, anyway, they're all up running around playing with each other. Anyways, it sort of just you know calms them for a little bit, and then they're back up and running.
Right. Cool. Well,
So
thank you for sharing that about the triplets. So, I always appreciate that and hearing your guys' story, hearing where they're at now.
yeah,
I
for
know
sure.
it's only going to get as we know, it's only going to get busier as they get into activities and after
Correct.
school stuff. We
Yeah.
got our hands full. Like people tell us all the time. I'm sure you hear it all the time. We got our hands full. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what it goes back to what I said about really trying to soak in this moment that we're in. We're not in organized sports. They're in like a Mother's Day out program right now.
Hmm.
Um, so we're in this like sweet spot where we can take the time and we're not running around everywhere. It's on our time. Is what we sort of tell them. Like it's on our schedule now. It's like if we want to go see friends and hang out with them, then okay, you're coming with. It's not like
Right.
nap schedule's this schedule, or it's not. We're not running around after sports and practices yet. So we're really in this sweet little honey spot, which we're really trying to soak in. Like I said.
Nice. Okay. I think we had, when we had first talked, I know the topic of IUI was very important to you and
Mm-hmm.
something, that you really wanted to speak further about. And I think this is really great because we're going to get people listening who are going through the same similar situations. And, I'm newer as far as learning about IUI. So I would love to kind of hear a little bit about just, again, more awareness to it from your end, things that you wish you would have known, not just from the doctors, but emotionally. Like, I think that would be a really
Yeah.
good starting point is to kind of figure out, like, I think, you guys were trying and then you're like, okay, well, let's look into this. And when you looked into it, like, what were your thoughts before versus after like doing IUI?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I would, looking back on it, I wish I just asked more questions. But that's
Hmm.
why I think, having the platform like this, anyone who's listening can feel free to reach out and chat about it because again, some people don't want to talk about it,
Right.
and I get why. But at the same time, is I think once you do talk about it and you realize it is a little more mainstream than people lead on, that it's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
And then it's all of a sudden it's like, well, we went about it this way, or we saw this doctor. There's a guy like you and I were talking about pre-recording. It was like there's three other guys here in Dallas. Two of others are in real estate, and they have triplets. Both have two boys and a girl, and we all went to the same fertility clinic.
Wow.
So like it's a pretty wild stat, right? So, but like
Hmm.
we've been fortunate enough to get together, and they're mine are the youngest of those four, so it's been good. Similar to what you said, is like okay, well I got to learn from them and went to one of their houses while my wife was pregnant, and they showed us their routine and what they did. I think having the resources and not being okay saying, hey, like this is different and weird, and this isn't how we thought the storybook was going to go, getting pregnant. I think
Hmm.
that's probably the biggest part, right? I think it's just being open and vulnerable to do that. But yeah, going through it on the front end, I think it's okay to ask for second opinions too. You might have one fertility clinic say, "Oh no, you need to go straight to IVF." It's okay to get another one and another one. I think one thing my wife and I, when we have these conversations with our couples, is typically what we've heard is they say, "Hey, try 2 rounds, maybe 3 rounds of IUI, then try IVF."
Okay.
You know, we probably, in our opinion, I think you could probably try a little more. IVF can be very invasive and expensive.
Yes.
IUI isn't as invasive and is a little bit more inexpensive. So I think that in that scheme of things, we would probably encourage people to try it a few more times. If everything leads to where you can do it,
Hmm.
that's one thing advice I'd probably give people on the front end too. Just don't do once or twice and be done. I think there's room to have a bit of a runway and maybe do a few more times than maybe they recommend because you just never know. And then IVF's no like 100% hit rate either. If you could maybe roll the dice a few more times with IUI and it's less invasive on you and the wife, and you know, then obviously 4 or 5 times come around, maybe then have the IVF conversation. I think sometimes what we realize is maybe that conversation comes too early, and again, that's our opinion and our
Yes.
thought,
Yeah.
but that's one thing that we've talked about with other people.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, I know it's really good insight. And again, like we said, nothing's going to be nothing won't be held against you. I'll make sure
Yeah,
no one goes after you. I'll be like, hey man, he said.
yeah, it's all
Yeah. No.
good.
Yeah. No. I get it. Like everyone's experience. There's reasoning behind it, what they went through, and so that's good that you have that community of the other triplet dads from the same clinic, which is pretty insane. I mean,
Yeah,
Dallas is a big city. It's not
yeah,
a little small town, so I imagine there's multiple that you can probably get a second
go
opinion
to, yeah,
from. Yeah, so
correct,
that's pretty cool.
yeah.
That's cool that you found that community. I have only I'm south of Denver now, and there's more than I know I'm not the only triplet dad here, but I've connected with one, and he's in Denver, so
Good.
I'll
Yeah.
eventually
I
get there.
yeah, I think it's just again, right, we always say we catch up more as just dads and have a beer and have a chat and
Hmm.
we all would love to do it more often, but as we all know between life, work, whatever it is, it
Yeah.
doesn't happen as much as we hope. But it's still just knowing that they're there too, right? Like I can text any other many times like, hey, we went through what did you guys do in this situation? Or
Hmm.
like who did you see for this or that or whatever it is. It's nice to have. And I think like having like, this podcast and sort of the Facebook group that we're a part of, I think that if people are a little more open and vulnerable about it, I think that would just help the conversation because you never know what someone else is going through. You never know what someone else is thinking. Whether it's maybe something I said today, someone else was thinking the same thing. They just, didn't feel safe or didn't have the people to talk to. So I definitely think that's something definitely to keep in mind when people are going through it on the front end with their wife when you guys are thinking about IUI or also like, going through the pregnancy and then also when they're born. It's just a lot.
It is. What were some of the resources that helped you guys while you were getting started with IUI that you would probably recommend to anyone listening? Was there anything online that you guys went to? Any social media platforms? Any creators? Anyone like that, or blog sites?
Not really. my wife's Facebook group was pretty beneficial because it was
Okay.
people who had kids in like a certain time period. So it wasn't
Okay.
like, oh yeah, my triplets are 8. Well, that doesn't really help me right now. So it was more of like, I think it was like a 18 month standpoint where if someone's
Yeah.
been in it, then you can stay in it. So yeah, she reached out to people and then she had that, and then we really liked our OB and our specialists. We really felt a good calming about it and we really trusted in them. And I asked them why. And I always challenged them on things. And if they could
Hmm.
explain it to me where I didn't feel I felt okay, then I felt like that was a good sign. If they could justify it in a way, I was like okay with it. I was like, hey, like if I have this question, they would answer it. And we ended up getting on a texting basis with our OB. So
That's awesome.
she was great. Yeah, she was great. I think, and
I,
again, that's not normal for everyone, but I
yeah.
think if you can create that sort of relationship with your OB and your specialist, I think that's so key because then you have a little more trust, a little more comfortability, a little more calmness with it all.
How do you do that? I'm just curious. How do you do that in a respect like I know you're being respectful about it. How do you do that? Like challenge them in a respectful manner? Because I want to know for and this is for anyone or
Yeah,
listeners because I think it's important because I think a lot of times you're afraid to speak up on certain things, especially in this such intimidating setting when we're dealing with like pregnancy and we're dealing with medical doctors who obviously know more than we do about the topic.
yeah,
But I think you have your own intuitions, your own parent guts, and your own questions. How did you go about that? How did you go about challenging them respectfully to be able to get the best out of them and not have
yeah,
them turned off by you?
yeah. No, yeah, good question. I think honestly, I thought, hey, like we have every right. Listen, you're smarter than me. You're Israeli. You have all the degrees in the world. This is what you do, and I love that. If that's the case, I feel like you should be able to if I have a question I don't understand something, you should be able to maybe tell me in a different way or show me a picture or show
Hmm.
me examples or whatever it is. It was just really challenging them into like, hey, if I don't feel comfortable in a situation, can you help me get comfortable by explaining it a different way or showing me something else or this is what this looks like compared to this. So it was more of just like if something didn't really it was more if I didn't really understand it, so to speak. It wasn't like, hey, I'm not challenging your like thoughts or theories. It's like maybe I just don't
Yes.
understand. Can you change it and maybe think about it this way? And they were so great about it. And even the same with the nurses in the NICU. I was like,
Hmm.
well, can you do it this way? Like they're like, no, you can't do it. I was like, perfect. That's why I asked.
Yeah,
That's why I want to know.
exactly.
So
Awesome.
just stuff like that.
Okay, that's cool. So I liked your approach about that. I think that's like I said before. I don't think enough people always feel comfortable, and some people go about it maybe a little too extreme, and then now so
Yeah,
they're like, man, my doctor doesn't like me. Well, maybe try to be
correct,
yeah, maybe change your approach a little bit. I don't know.
correct.
So now with the we talked about a little bit about how you guys went through it, multiple cycles of IUI.
Hmm.
How was that mentally for you and your wife, like as far as like on the waiting periods? Because as you said you did the first one and then you did it the second time, right? And that was the higher dosage, correct? Yes. So what was that experience like as far as like waiting to get the results and the call and all that?
Yeah, I feel like you just always not walking on eggshells. You just don't know.
Hmm.
Like the unknown is the scary part. You do what you get told to do. This many shots at this time, and do this, do that, and do this to help your sperm count. Do that to help your sperm count. And you're like, well, is it working? Is it not? And you
Right.
don't know until you do it. So I think the mental side of it was just like, hey, this is we wanted a family, and this is what we need to do. So let's do it. And we had full faith in the process, I guess. Probably easier said than done. Honestly don't really remember too much of it. It was just sort of like a blur. But again,
Yeah.
it was just trying to figure it out on the run. And we're like, hey, like worst case scenarios, then we'll just stop. At any point, you can just stop. Like you can stop taking the medication, you can stop doing it all, and just stop and reset. And we said if the second time didn't work, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and because it can be a lot, it's stressful, it's timely, the bills can add up. And so yeah, I think that part of it was more of like leaning on each other too. Is like, hey, like this isn't just a her thing; it's still me, and there's parts that I need
Yes.
to do better. And I was just trying to be the best person I could be for her from a husband standpoint of like, hey, like what can I help you with today in regards to this? Or do you need help? Or do you need to vent? Do you not?
Hmm.
I think it's being there for them. And then there was like my stuff that I had to work on, which I did. yeah, I just think we had full faith in the process, and just said, hey, like literally, the worst case scenario is at any moment we can pull the ripcord and be done. And the first time didn't work, and it was a little bit of a letdown. Because you just like, oh, so excited, this could be it, this could be the
Yeah.
one, and then it didn't. But again, we're like, hey, like it's probably not gonna be. We probably knew it wasn't gonna work the first time, and then but then every time the month goes by, and then the second time, we're like, well, they up the dosage. Will this work? What if this one doesn't work? Then what do we do? Then that's when you can start sort of getting in the spiral.
Yeah, you can go down a rabbit hole and you're kind of
Yeah,
just trying to figure out like, yeah, no, that sounds pretty accurate.
yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing about that. I do like you mentioned something that was pretty key. You talked about checking on your wife and like, mention the partnership of it. Like
Hmm.
because that's I don't I'm and we know the statistics of triplet parents. Like those studies are out there. Divorce rate is high. I think because you're dealing with a lot with from beginning to raising the kids, it's a lot. And that aspect of being able to be there for your partner and just remembering that check-in, I think that's very important for you to share because I think everyone needs to hear that. Sometimes they can, I know I need to hear that too from time to time because
Yeah,
it's like I think it's just a natural part of the relationship, right? Like that's yeah.
for sure. I think that's one thing that some of my mentors and people told me who had kids. It's like, hey, obviously we're in a different boat, but if you can be the best husband you can be, essentially she can be the best mother you can be, which essentially makes you being the best husband, dad you can be. So I always get that back in my mind. It's like, hey, especially for us, it was a little different, and there was no breastfeeding involved, but it was just like, as much as I can take on and do, and she's obviously been through a lot the last year, right, so to speak, and it was like I was always just trying to do a little bit more than she did. Again, it was very
Yeah,
50-50 and equal, but if not,
that's
maybe
great.
more her. But my mentality was just like, if I can keep up and do a little more, or, give her a night off every week, or, when the kids got little, I was like, hey, you can go have a staycation somewhere where if I desperately need you, I need you to come back, you can, but like take
Yeah.
some time. I think that's what I tell, even with people with singletons, I tell them, really focus on being a good husband as well. Like, don't forget that. Yes, the kid and kids take over, and the full attention goes on them. But you can't let the attention go from being a good husband and what that means as well.
Well said. Going back to IUI, I only have a few more questions left, but going back to the IUI, can you give any advice to anyone who may be researching clinics? Like, what did you guys look into as far as when you found your spot? Was it kind of like, hey, this is the first spot we found and we liked them? Or did you think about going different routes, or how'd that go?
Yeah, we tried. We sort of Googled it, to be honest, and was like,
Okay.
hey,
Yeah,
fertility
that's,
clinics in
yeah.
DFW, and the first person we didn't like. We
Okay.
didn't really like the bedside manner. He was like, "Hey, no, you just need to go straight to IVF," and
Oh, wow.
it felt like a bit of a money grab, to be honest.
Yeah.
We got, and then that sort of rocks the emotions too. It's like, well, is every doctor going to be like this? Is this what we're
Yes.
looking? So then we found another one, and they were super great. Again, that's where the other guys went to, and I didn't know them at the time, but even people now who are going through it, I highly recommend them. And even now they're like, oh yeah, we're seeing this person. Like, oh yeah, that's who we saw. Somewhere it's like, hey,
Cool.
just be careful, you might get triplets. But yeah, we didn't do too much research. My wife did like reviews and stuff like that on places, but
Okay.
from my memory, it was like we just had the first person wasn't. We didn't get a feeling. We didn't really like it. It was more of like a transactional thing instead of like an actual feeling and caring thing. And this second place was the one who sort of cared and did a better job. We thought. So yeah,
Well, that's good. I think Google obviously for the most part, is our friend, and I know that's how a lot of us find our information because I don't think not everyone is going to have connections directly to these places or have no triplet parents or multiple parents and who may have gone through it. So that's good to know. And then, so for anyone listening who is getting ready to start IUI journey, do you have any? Sorry, I got the speaker that comes on.
and
Um,
again.
Do you have any advice for the parents listening, or the soon-to-be people going through IUI listening, um, just in general about the process? Like anything that you'd like to share?
Um, People going through it, I think if you go in with it with an open mind and again, do as much research as you can and ask the silly questions, so to speak.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like in this situation there is no silly question, and we're not the experts. Unless someone is in the field and does it, then good for them. But I definitely was not with my background. I definitely wasn't close to a doctor. So I think asking the silly questions, and just really talking through it with the wife. What do you want to get out of it? Do you want to try
Yeah.
once, two, four, five times? Do you want to go straight to your IVF? Great, so be it. I think just being open and honest and talking with each other and talking with resources, like I said, it's tough to just reach out to someone and be like, hey, what did you do? But in situations where you are starting to get pregnant, there's times to talk to people. So I think I'd just recommend them literally seeking out the community. It's tough trying different doctors and talking to different doctors and seeing if other people, seeing if their mates has had trouble with pregnancy and who did they use, and go having a consultation with them. And I think it's just a trial and error thing to what you and your wife feels comfortable with at that time. I think that's probably the best bet. I think you'll know when you know, right?
Hmm.
Like the first one for us wasn't a good fit, and I'm sure he's done great with other people. For us, it wasn't a good fit. The second people were great, and we were okay if these second people weren't, would go somewhere else. So I think definitely it's sort of like, it's not trial and error, but it's just really having those sit down consultations and getting a good feel and how they treat you and the bedside manner and how much time they give you and that type of thing. Because you never know, you could go through IUI, then you're enough in triplets, and it's like, well, you're seeing them all the time, and you start to know them, and you got to have a relationship with them.
Yes. Great. Well, Todd, thank you for your time. I know we probably went longer. I know you got to get back
You're
to
good.
your job and to your father duties. I know
We all
time
do.
zones and all that. Yes. So I appreciate you joining. Appreciate you reaching out. And I thought this was a really great conversation. And I'm hoping people will get a lot of value out of this. And just know that there is a community out there, and they can. There's resources, and they're not alone. Like in this part. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I think you're spot on, and again, I appreciate the time. I think that like this would have been helpful when I was going through it, even just to listen to it when
Hmm.
whether you're doing bounce time or some quiet time, it's something to listen to
Yes.
during feeding time. But again, if anyone wants to reach out, I'll give you my email address, and people can reach out, and we can have a call, or if they want advice, no advice, whatever it is, if they want someone to just talk to, I'm happy to be there for people. And again, it's not an easy route doing the multiples, and the more you can have in a common place with someone else, I think helps. So I think it's great what you're doing. Again, love the idea when I saw your post, and happy to help anyone or anyone.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, you can find this on most podcast platforms. Again, we're on social media, Instagram, or not Facebook. Can't do Facebook. So I have Instagram, I got TikTok, and I got Threads. So, and we do have a YouTube channel, but it's at Triplet Double. Thank you all. And again, can't thank Todd enough for coming on here and sharing his experience. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody.